A lot of what we do here at 3L involves the front end guest facing technology, specifically the .com, the app, and all those areas where ordering takes place. But it's almost like an iceberg where the bigger part of the picture actually happens on premise and in the back of the house. And even though we don't touch a lot of that, I get absolutely over the moon when I start to hear about innovations that rethink the way the back of the house works. As with all tech in our industry right now, a lot of it is a choice between built versus bought. Built systems cost a ton of money. You have to start from scratch usually, and then you have to maintain it. And that just becomes a bigger hat to wear than most mid-market brands are willing to take on. Let's not even talk about startup brands and the money that they have to actually build something custom from scratch. So usually folks default to out of the box or bought systems. And look, there are a ton out there and they are great. They're very turnkey, especially when they're set up correctly. However, as I've said on previous episodes, when you go with a bought system, you are bought in to their roadmap, not your own. It's what they want to put out there. It's what they think has the best business impact, what they think is going to be a revenue driver. There's nothing wrong with that. I love our tech partners. However, you have your own brand, your own needs, and your own path forward. And so I've heard of a lot of brands taking things on, trying to do stopgaps and also bending and or breaking systems to fit their will. But last year at the QSR and FSR conference, I actually stumbled upon an amazing thing when I had Davide Maki from Due Cucina on my panel. And he slipped into the conversation how his partner developed software for the back of the house to automatically understand the temperature of water, the amount of boiling time based on the type of pasta. Yeah, that's right. So rather than trying to find an out-of-the-box system that they could just glom onto their current tech stack, this guy went ahead and jumped in and built one from scratch. And that's just the beginning. So today I'm really pumped to have on the show Filippo Fiori from Due Cucina to talk about his history and how he got positioned well to find a path to custom software for the back of the house in such a niche need, which is the boiling time of pasta. I do hope you enjoy. Hey everyone, as I said earlier, we are joined by Filippo Fiori. He is partner, correct?
Yeah, co-founder, yeah.
Co-founder, partner at Due Cucina. And I actually first heard of Due Cucina because I had your partner, Davide Maki, on a panel at QSR FSR Evolution this past year. And some things that he said, he rolled through them as if it were like this normal thing. And I was like, wait, can we stop and actually like address what you just said? So maybe we start there. I think in our industry today, we were all forced to dive into a scenario where we adopted technology. And so what ended up happening is we've glommed together these tech stacks that sort of talk to each other. And now we've moved on to the next fire or spinning plate. But I think we're now in an era where we're starting to address that. So I'll say it, and then you can kind of take me through the details. But in Due Cucina's cuisine, you have pasta. And I think a lot of people, we've all cooked pasta, and I think we get it. You drop the pasta in the water does the boiling, you get the pasta out, you're done. However, you ran into some problems. So I'm going to start by asking you, what were those problems with the different types of pastas and operationally speaking? And then you can drop the bomb on how you fixed it.
Well, I would say that you're right. There is a software for everything, or seems like it. And there's a sort of software overload. And that's one of the issues that a small operator, a growing chain, you might face is like, what am I choosing? Pasta, as you said, is something so easy to make. And usually when something is easy, it actually is difficult. And so we have a few variables to control. And one of that is that we have different pasta shapes. You can, in our restaurant, you can mix and match with the sauces, which means they have different cooking time. And we couldn't find a solution other than just buy 6 or 7 different timers, each of which has 3 displays. So a total of 18 timers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we went for a while until we said, this can work. Simple things. There are a lot of batteries that detach from the shelf and fall inside. So it just couldn't work. And so one of the things that we did was actually develop a timer, an app that it would be more user-friendly and straightforward. So basically, that really simplified the operation for the restaurant, for the people using it. And that fit into this story of the fact that you don't have off the shelf an app that works for everybody. And trust me, before going and developing our own app, we tried different timers. We built them, we experienced, and there was always something not working. And so we decided that making our own was the best choice.
Mm-hmm. So what was that? I mean, the restaurant industry is tough enough, but you forayed into essentially a tech director to build this thing. And at first I was pretty astounded, but then I did a little research on you and I think it's actually not that far-fetched. Am I right in saying that you were a nuclear engineer?
Yeah. Like that's my past life, but I think I applied my mindset daily. So I got my bachelor and master in nuclear engineering in Italy, and then I got my PhD in nuclear science from China in Tsinghua University. And I think it's my mindset. So both me and David were pretty tech oriented. David got his MBA from MIT, which really, his mind is really shaped toward tech and mostly how to apply tech, right? Not tech per se, but what is the practical solution? What is the problem that I'm trying to fix here? So we are not techies that like to spend nights building software. We actually not even good at building software. I use GPT now or we outsource it. But the point is analyzing what is the problem, then how I think to address that. Is it available off the shelf? And if not, or even if it is available, is it cost effective? Does it make sense? What is the maintenance cost of that? Is it going to be adopted by my team that in the end, they are cooks, right? And so it has to be made in a way that works for your operation. And in order to have something that is adopted by your team, you really need to be tailor-made to you. If it's like, yeah, this can work, well, it can work for me because I understand the limitation of the software off the shelf. But my cook will be like, no, it doesn't work. No, but no, it works. If you do this and you consider, they're like, and that's what you use. So that is when we choose to make something of our own, because we know that it's going to make the life easier. So the ultimate goal is to make their life easier without having to tweak that software for them to use.
Yeah, I love that, because what you're tapping into is true UX. It is usability. It's the user experience. And I think, one of the phrases that I say often is when you use an out of the box system, you're actually still in a box, and it's their box. It's their roadmap. The improvements that they choose to make are based on cumulative and or perceived return on that investment of time and energy to put into developing it. So what ends up happening is you float over to the right and maybe you benefit with some of them, but it's not really aligned with what you're trying to do in your brand. And so it's brilliant that you went to the people that are going to use this, because the worst thing that could happen is you buy into that beautiful salesperson's pitch of solving all of your problems, and you adopt a software, you bring it in-house where the people are actually going to use it, and you realize, well, now you have a new problem and that you have to train people up. And training and education is extremely difficult, especially if you're dealing with language barriers, which, is often the case in the kitchen, where English is not the first language, something you're familiar with, of course.
Yeah, I mean, and nowadays the language is not really the barrier, right? Because you can use instant translator. I have managers that they have the phone like this, Google Translate directly. One speaks Spanish, the other speak English, and they have a conversation, right? So that's not the issue. But you say, right, training is one of the downfall of adopting a software. For us, it was more like, oh my God, this is what a small operator we were facing. We're still facing like, oh my God, how do I handle it? This is complicated. What do I do? What do I do? It's like, oh wow, yeah, that's that software. And super excited to jump on the software. You do the demo, you say, oh yeah, this check everything 95% is perfect. And you adopt it. There is a lot of excitement, a lot of energy, then to realize that 5% is what is slowing your adoption. And your team is like, yeah, but not. And you go and you drag it until you say, no, this doesn't work.
And it's funny because, when as soon as you say tech, there are a lot of people that almost feel dwarfed, like they're not built for that thinking. But everybody has user experience, whether they realize or not. So what you just said is, I love it, because it reminds me of, take tech out of it. Let's go back to the era of calculators. Anybody that worked in a restaurant has experienced this. And the scenario is this. I hired a new person and I bring them in. Okay, so I'm gonna train this person. And I'm gonna put this person with my best person, because that's who's gonna train, because this person knows how to do it best, right? I leave as the owner or manager. I leave because I have, other fires to put out. And so what happens? My rock star person, she says, hey, this is the way you're supposed to do it, but don't do it that way. Do it this way, it's faster. And it's like, that is the core of UX. So what did she find? She found a shortcut that results in the same result, high quality, high touch, found it better, easier, faster. That's what she's training against. And yet so often we have people that don't listen or don't even think to ask. So I circling back to the solution that you built, I love that it wasn't just we could build a cool thing that'll fix our need for these timers. This is part of the problem, but the real problem was the person using it. And how do you make sure that it's adoptable? So how much user testing did you do? And how formal was it? Could you give a little bit of insight into that?
Well, for us, it's very easy. We understand what's the limitation to have 6 timers and 3 buttons each. And then you have the one for clear, setting, minute, seconds. Well, stuff get dirty in the kitchen. There is grease that goes around. And so those buttons stop working and there's a problem. You buy and toss it. Then you're busy. You hit it with a pen at the hand, the hole behind the magnet pull down, and you have to replace it. It was too hot and your battery started melting. So as soon as we introduce something like a little app on the tablet that is touch screen, that's another issue. They can use it with gloves. If they want to. It just makes it so much easier. It's just the fact that they don't have to think. Let me put it this. For us, let's say spaghetti, right? Mm-hmm. Spaghetti, our cooks in 4 minutes. They have to think. While they're cooking like 5-6 pans at a time because we have fast schedule, so we're fast. Oh yeah, this is 4 minutes. So what we ended up is having to put stickers inside the fridges or what's the cooking time for each pasta shape because we have 6 pasta shapes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then those get washed off and somebody on your one come and cook it for 2 minutes and then the pasta is not cooked. Well, right now, they just look at the tablet and say spaghetti. They select spaghetti and the timer is embedded.
Amazing.
They don't have to choose it.
Yeah.
Well, you remove one variable already. And they just make it so easy. And because of that, the team really adopted it quickly. In a certain way, it's streamlining your training. You don't have to think. Mm-hmm. Which is, if we look philosophically, is bad because we're teaching people not to think. But in a certain way, I'm like, I just want you to focus on quality and execution. I don't want to remember that this pasta shape cooking too. And then what happened is we rotate the pasta shape. That problem. Now we have 6 restaurants. One is in Dallas. You have to send communication. You send email. You send announcement when they clock in. You send video training. But somehow somebody always misses the information. And right now, it's like we actually launched a new pasta shape today. They're cooking a different time than the others. Mm-hmm. I don't have to tell them change all the timers. That is it. Mm. They choose a new pasta shape, which has on the timer as the name that comes on the screen for the order. You choose that one, and that's it. When the timer goes off, the pasta is cooked.
I love that. So tell me about your current footprint. You're at 12 locations, right?
And 6, actually.
6. I don't know why I have 12 in my head.
I love
maybe similar.
If we can.
12 soon enough, right? So you have 6 locations. You started in the Northwest in Seattle.
Yeah.
And now you have 1 outpost in Dallas?
Yeah. So 5 in Seattle area, 1 in Dallas.
Okay. So 2 very different microclimates.
Yep.
Especially depending on the time of the year. How did you know that going into the expansion, and did you already think for it? Or is that a challenge that you're facing now with, for instance, coming up on summertime? This will be your first full summer in Dallas, if I recall correctly. Obviously, notably hotter than Seattle. So the boil times are probably slightly different. And as you know, the whole reason for doing the app, like every second really does count. And especially when you're trying to land that perfect. So I don't know what you think about this, but I had a great interview with Scott Conant. He's a really well-known Italian chef on TV. And he was the first person to say to me, like, al dente is not a thing. That's just basically Americans or other non-Italians trying to get a fresh pasta taste, like get the tooth on the pasta that you would normally get when you do fresh pasta. So I imagine you're trying to land the plane somewhere past al dente, but before mushy. in that perfect moment, which with a very hot climate like Dallas has got to be challenging.
So the climate influence how you make the pasta, influence the humidity. But once you cook it, it's boiling, right?
Sure.
So you might have a difference if you're high elevation because it boil at different temperature. Yeah, because both Dallas and Seattle at the same elevation, you have no issue. I mean, if you're going Denver, probably to boil the pasta, it's going to take a lot longer because the water boils at, I don't know how many Fahrenheit, I think it's Celsius, but probably 205, right? Instead of 12. But making the pasta, which is much less tacky in terms of solution that we adopted, but we do take into account the humidity, and we do take into account what the flour has been stored in that facilities before coming to us. So we always let season the flour in our stores for a few days before we can actually use it, because we know what is our humidity in our restaurant. And after all, we all have AC. So the temperature variation between winter and summer is mostly like 10 degrees Fahrenheit, but humidity is what change a lot. And so we have different tables that tells the cooks which amount of liquid to use depends on the humidity of the day. But once it's cooked, because we are in Dallas, we are fine. It's same temperature.
How does the so I have a side hustle that's launching soon. It's a frozen burrito company. So I've gotten very deep into the cold chain, which this would not be part of the cold chain because it's dry good. But like you said, getting into a truck and being driven even from the warehouse to the location in Dallas, especially like in August, is that going to cause, I know you said you let it acclimate to the
that's
inside.
the flour, right? I'm talking about the flour product. I think most of these chain transport the stuff in, most of these distributors transport the stuff in a refrigerated truck.
Oh, great. Okay. So it's not coming in just,
our supply of flour also have milk and stuff like that. So I just dump it inside, it comes to you. So we're pretty good that there is not much variation. But again, the biggest problem is like a rainy day like today in Seattle.
Sure.
If I use the same amount of water in my batch that I use probably 5 days ago that was extremely sunny and dry and wind from the north, it will be pretty soft. But yeah, we do let our flour coming in to season for like a week before we actually use it. So we know the environment where it's being held.
Yeah, that's great to know. So it sounds like you said, this part of it's very manual, which leads me to my next question, which as you look at your tech stack and your growth trajectory, what are some of the hallmarks for you that tell you it's time to start evaluating build versus bought or a hybrid solution? What are some of the levers that you pull to have it tell you that like, hey, it's time to build something?
The feedback from the team will not going to tell you have to build a new software, right? But your team is going to tell you, you're going to say, hey, what has been a mistake? What is going on here? Like, hey, chef, it's difficult. It doesn't work. I have trouble teaching my team to do this one. We do monthly meeting with the restaurant manager. I talk to them every week, basically. And one of the struggles that we have is actually, we use in Seattle a central kitchen. One of the restaurants is bigger, so it produces some of the more critical items in terms of difficulties of being made. And then we ship them daily to the other locations. I'm talking about sauces, bolognese, short ribs braised like 5 hours making. And then the restaurants, based on the forecast that they have, they need to order from the central kitchen. I build an Excel file with a forecast for sales based on, 3-week sales plus change of weather and whatever. But one, there is a problem of UX that you have to input the stock take. And the second is that it is not perfect because the central kitchen doesn't actually see what they have in each location. And so when there are mistakes, they get lost. And just before jumping on this call, I was here trying to figure out, I just uploaded my file, which is pretty complex because some of the preparations, like, if you have to make a bolognese, you need a stock. If you need the stock, you need to have the bones. And you start 2 days before that. And then you need to have the bones in your fridge that you ordered 3 days before, right? So all of my software tell these to my managers, but it got complicated on Excel. And so what I was trying to do, I just uploaded, just very simple, hey, ChatGPT, can you actually make an app if I upload it on Excel? And she's like, yeah, sure, upload it. And so we started going through this, and I was here on my Linux trying to compile the file that we just spit out. And see if it works. And the goal is really The question was, when do you do that? Well, you do that when the team tells you the operation there's a lot of friction and you feel that something is wrong. When, in this case, the regional manager talked to the restaurant manager, hey, you got to do better. And the restaurant manager is like, I'm trying my best, but my team doesn't understand. You're like, our point, and this is where our education back is like, why is this not working? My people are not stupid. People are not stupid per se. And even if they can get what I've done, it is my role to make them understand, to give them a tool that can actually perform.
Yeah, I love that. It's so sorry. It's bringing me back to an anecdote. When I owned my own agency before I joined up here at 3L, I had an agency. I built it over a very longer than I care to admit, time, and then I sold it. But something had happened on an entry level situation that essentially trickled upward, unfortunately. And when I finally heard about it, I sat down with the person telling me, and I was like, okay, that's my fault. I have to, fix something. And she said, no, it's not your fault. How's it your fault? I was like, let me be very clear. When you're at the top, everything is your fault. Because you either didn't train correctly, equip correctly, retrain, reinforce, make clear. Like there's one of a million reasons why it's your fault. Maybe not solely your fault, but you have the power to fix it, and probably uniquely more than anyone else. You have the power to hear and understand and the power to make adjustments. And so if there are still problems happening over and over and over again, and you haven't at least started putting in a plan to sort it out or fix it, it is your fault. It's good to hear that you're leveraging ChatGPT for more than writing terrible articles and acting like you wrote them. Because I'm seeing that more and more in our industry as well. What happens after you put your inputs? How much tweaking and editing are you doing, and how accessible do you think that pathway is for folks that don't have impressive tech educations like you and Davide?
Well, there's one thing that I want to say to everybody. You're trying to make everybody that listen to feel like I can do it. I remove the tech part that scares me, right? I'm an engineer, but I never coded. That's the thing. I mean, I was coding, but I was coding nuclear power plant software for safety analysis of nuclear power plant, which doesn't apply to building codes.
Sure.
And so we use three different ways actually to do what we're doing. One is the app sheet, which is pretty simple. And we use Google and ChatGPT to have ideas to see how to fix stuff. So we built from onboarding document, or onboarding flows for new employees, or keeping track of expiration date of our alcohol liquid permit, or the increased liquid permit, food handlers card and stuff like that, right? Because incredibly enough, our human resource software didn't have the tracking. And so we needed to have that. We use AppSheet to build our refund forms, and everything is now connected in our Due app that each has available. So you don't board and you took your Due app. You have to make a refund. You need to do the refund because if it's something that comes from your online ordering, which of course is integrated with your POS, but you can't do a refund from the POS. You have to go in the backend and go on their website that hold your ordering platform and make the refund from there. So we need to have all of that. The other tech that we use, this was mostly Davide and our business analysts. They develop our reporting tools on, WBR, Weekly Business Reviews, and Power BI. And we needed to extract all the data from our sales channel and using API and integrating all of that. And so they hire engineers in developing country to save money, and they work remotely on building that. Now I'm working on this app with the help of ChatGPT. You start simple and you see where it goes, but I'm at the level in which I'm really learning. It's like, okay, what do I do now? And they're like, oh yeah, you don't know how to compile this. No, I don't. And so just going to compile it. But I think I enjoy the process of learning no matter what.
Yeah.
So it can really be done. And stuff like ChatGPT, they hold you hand by hand. Now, I'm not saying that everybody can do it. You need to have the mental model of saying, I'm going to do it.
Sure.
You know that you've done it in the past, but it's not out of reach of, it's no more difficult than starting and running a restaurant, which is extremely complex.
Very complex. You're right. Yeah. So I think I successfully didn't talk about Due at all, and a little embarrassing. Um, when Davide was on the panel and we got to interface just a little bit, um, the first thing that impressed me was that you were able to start scaling a Italian restaurant, like a pasta based concept. This has been tried very often, and the failure rate is very high. Um, I think it comes down to quality. And so why I want to bring this up is because you did mention some of your procedures, which are incredibly impressive. So the reason why quality has been an issue in some of these places, I can think of like four off the top of my head right now, is that they're not spending 5 hours to do their braised short rib. They're not. They're doing mostly out of the box, or they were doing cheap. It was just inexpensive because they were playing the money game. But Due has approached this what sounds to be very different. So when you and Davide were concepting Due, how much did you talk about the need to be higher quality yet maintain that balance of accessibility?
You know, I think that being high quality is the key of success. But funny enough, we didn't even talk about being high quality. We did talk about bringing to the US what we are used to eat back home. And which, of course, Italian food is quality of the ingredients. So then after the first year, I was like, wow, why do we have such a great reviews? I mean, the food is, is good. It's extremely good. And we decided like it was fresh, everything fresh. We don't have dry herbs, for instance. It's pasture raised protein when we can, just because it's more sustainable. We have regenerative agriculture flour. It's just that everything that we do is in the mind of something that is ethically right and respectful of the ingredient itself and the growing method for it. And so I don't know if quality is the reason why others fail. I think that the more components like replicability is the issue. And then of course you have Noodle and Co. that made a massive empire out of noodles being frozen, but we'll go there. Or Olive Garden, that to avoid the problem was salting the water in the pasta, that's another issue. Entirely decided to cook pasta in unsalted water, which give you the mushy consistency.
Sure. Not to mention a lot of other difficulties. Yeah. And that for those that don't remember, that was essentially one of the catalysts for a very aggressive takeover in the boardroom. Because there was a whole report that an activist board member, an investor took, and that was like one of the biggest lines, like you don't even salt the water.
Yep.
And it's wild.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But they keep doing it. I'm telling you why. It's extremely complicated.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, I'm working on a device that hopefully I will submit for patent to have automatic adjustment of salinity in such a small quantity, because right now it's done only in industrial application or batch cooking. And again, this is the approach of, I have this problem. How do I solve it? Right now it's with the timer. And now we are improving that. But with our own app, listen to this. With our own app, we know how many pasta we're cooking in a specific set of time. So now we're building a timer that will tell you, check the saltiness of the water. But not based on time, based on how many you cooked.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because there's absorption happening. There's evaporation happening. Yeah.
So the evaporation has been taken care of because the water is kept always at the same level. Is how many pasta are you cooking? How many portions that remove the salt? And so you can't look at the way of time. The timer, it can help if you put it every 25 minutes, but what happened? The team will totally ignore it, because when it goes off in the morning or during prep time, they're like, oh yeah, bullshit, I don't need it. Oh yeah. Bullshit. Oh, I'm not being busy, I don't need it. And after a while, ignore completely.
Yeah.
So that's another problem. And there's no solution for that in the market. So this is where we stand.
I love that. Yeah. It's great that you're able to identify the issues, take a beat to understand the full root of the problem, and then start to devise theories that then are tested. And I think that's really the path. It's the scientific method, and the scientific method is not relegated to scientists only. It's a method for a reason. It sounds like you're applying it in restaurants, which I think is so, it's impressive because it's not common. And I think it needs to be more common.
The way I see it is that we're trying to build a chain of high quality Italian food that many people feel in terms of authentic Italian food with authentic and fresh product, right? But the way I look at it, it's like, how much time do the big companies spend on developing a toolbox that keep the French fries crispy by the time they go home?
Right.
That is science behind it. That's like these big companies thinking about this stuff, right? And so us, we're just on a small scale, but we know because Italian food done properly, with fresh pasta, is difficult as a schedule concept. We need to do it early on. We can't expect to have the resources of 100 stores to just start doing that. We need to do it now, and that would be the key of success. Like basically, we're building the foundation now at this level for 50 stores, 100 stores.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. And well, I'm telling you, you have a stronger foundation already than a lot of other startups because they end up getting into the scramble, like I said, and you end up just glomming on the tech that's available, get it done, check the box, move on, because there's so much to do. But the fact that you've taken the moment to really think about these things, I think does assure the path to success is a heck of a lot clearer than a lot of other startups. You also gave away a very, 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 very important inside information that I think everyone listening should take away. Use fresh herbs. Use fresh herbs at home. If you want to look and taste like an amazing chef, throw the dry shit out the door and use fresh herbs. It's easy to grab the dry, but I'm telling you, if you just grab rosemary, oregano, and basil and chop that up and put it into your meatballs or even the sauce that you bought off the shelf, voila, you taste like you cooked that for hours. It's so good. It's so important. And fresh cracked pepper.
You're totally right. But listen, coming from Italy, it doesn't even look like we do anything special.
Right.
Until I open a catalog or some sales reps come and it's like, oh, if you use dry garlic, you're going to say, wait, what? No. And so this is when it comes through. Like, even my supplier, Filippo, you buy like so many onions and you're mincing and chopping yourself by hand. I'm like, yeah. You know that we have a machine that we do that? Yeah. And I'm like, how much before you do before they come to me? Oh, it's usually a week or two. I'm like, yeah, sorry. No. So,
right.
But again, for us, it doesn't look too special. But I noticed that when we talk, to people like you, or when I have cooks coming from different restaurants, they're like, this is different. Like, yeah, I'm not saying that we are vertically integrated, but we do everything from scratch. Like, we shoot our own meat. And for a fast schedule,
it's amazing.
Like, the meat is weird. You're making your own stock instead of buying, a stock bouillon. Mm-hmm. We make our own sausage. How many sausage producers are around?
Yeah, not many.
Not many, and everybody use Italian seasoning. And I'm like, what is Italian seasoning?
Right.
I'm making my own. That's what my mom taught me. My grandpa taught me. That's it.
Yeah. No, it's so important. I think the good news is now that you're in Texas, you do have better access to like really good cured meats. And luckily we're virtual, so you can't punch me. There are a couple good buffalo mozzarella makers there that are like, it stands up. It really does, because they're making it the right way.
There are, the things are coming. I'm not saying that the US is behind or anything. And there are certain things that you can't really import, like fresh cheese. You can't import it. That's simple.
Right.
And so we do buy local product. Sometimes, most of the time, they're made, like mozzarella is made from Italian families that moved, they have a business in Italy. They open over here because it's smart and they're making it here. And it's delicious. I'm not getting me wrong. But they will really make everything. Funny things. 2 days ago, we received an email from Barilla, Italian manufacturer of pasta.
Yep.
And they say, guys, impressed what you're doing. I see you're growing. Let's explore how we can provide our pasta for you. And I'm like, besides the fact that I'm making fresh pasta in store, right?
Right.
Now, if you want to make a fast schedule of fresh pasta or of pasta using dried pasta, and I saw there was a chef in New York that a few years ago started a product. It was a pasta flyer. Very renowned chef. He was the chef of Del Posto restaurant from Bastianic and Batali. 4-star New York Times. And he developed this concept of a pasta that was cooked and then frozen and then recooked, they're cooked in a minute. And I'm like, why don't you use fresh pasta? So he was buying dried pasta from Italy, made in a special way that he developed. They will cook 1 meal. Like, why don't you use fresh pasta?
Yeah.
Because it costs money. Like, yeah, but in fact, it didn't work. My point
right. Like, how much did you save though? I mean, yeah. I mean, that's the other issue that we have in the industry is the adage goes that restaurant owners will jump over a $20 bill to save $1.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of thing. It's like, well, it seemed simpler and it seemed like you were saving if you look at this one line, but if you look at all this other stuff and add that up, you're actually paying more. for a lower quality product.
I think for us, it's really, as you said, quality, make everything for yourself, and which is not that different from the tech stack, right? If I don't have it, I'll make it if I need it. And so I didn't have option for good focaccia here in Seattle or good bread. I tried a different, fantastic bakery that they want semi-fine regions beer work, but then when they deliver wholesale, it was too wet inside, or the focaccia wasn't done the same morning. It wasn't good, so we make it our own.
Yeah,
and that's the same for the tech stack. I don't have that specific one, really the one that I want, so I develop it.
I love it. Yeah, it's great that you also found a balance with convenience. And I think the difference between markets, convenience matters most here. And I agree that I don't think America is behind. I think we're diverted. And I think that's the problem. We've diverted from, it's essentially the remnants of the industrial era where we became so enamored with process and we stopped thinking about the end result and what it means. And so that's where you get, vegetables where all the nutrients have been leached, but it's fast and it's cheap and it's easy and tastes close, right? And I think what we're seeing now is there's a really big and building movement towards not sacrificing convenience, but understanding how inconvenient bad food that's bad for you really is. And then you get stigmas around cuisine, like pasta's bad for you. And it's like, dude, if you eat a plate of pasta like Tony Soprano every day and it's heaping this big of everything is bad for you, don't eat that much. But it's interesting to hear your process. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I would say you're totally right. I think I have very high hope for this country because I think that the worst is in the past in terms of processed food. The white bread movement of the 70s, it to be the white bread. Unfortunately, I arrived in Italy 15 years ago. And now everybody was like, oh, I'm gluten intolerant. No, I'm like, you're not gluten intolerant. You're intolerant to crap food. Right?
I love that.
Guess what? David, my business partner, was gluten intolerant for a while. So we make sourdough bread and he ate it no problem. My dad was gluten intolerant according to the doctor, and rice and corn pasta are like bullshit. And so when we started the business, actually, we developed a new recipe that was less gluten, more protein, most nutritionally balanced, that we call healthy pasta. Now we have our protein plus that is made with healthy ingredient, organic ingredient. And my dad was eating it fine.
Right.
And now he's not gluten intolerant anymore. My point is, I have hope for the US because there is a new movement that you were saying of people really understanding the food and understanding that what you put inside is what you're making out of, what your body is. And saving $5 on food maybe costs you $50 on healthcare.
Right. Yeah. Or more, all things considered.
Yeah.
So before we devolve into health, because that is an entirely different episode, which I maybe should actually hop into. This has been great. I am not gluten intolerant, but I am intolerant of bad tech. And I was really excited, and I'm even more enamored with what you're doing. Realizing that problems can be solved with new tools, new ideas, new processes, and not tech for the sake of tech, but tech that's really solving problems that are going to help you scale and also helping your people with it, which I think is that critical component that not a lot of people are talking about. Before we close this all up, is there anything that you want to say? Where can people find you? And I just appreciate you coming on.
What I want to say is that a sales rep from a tech company will try to tell you, oh, this does this and this and this and this, and you feel enticed, and you start thinking, oh, maybe I can use that capability for this one, and then I can use that. And instead of solving the problem, you're actually creating the problem of how to apply the capability to solve a problem that you didn't have.
Right.
That's the biggest problem that we're facing. There is such an overload. So for me, it's about keeping it simple, understand your problem, put in your tech stack, and then see, I just need to fix this one. How do I do it?
Yep. Yeah. And I think, what you usually find in that situation too, and I've seen this so often, especially with email, for instance, email marketing, you have these systems that they figure out this one thing that they're going to do so well, and they do it, and then they glom on email marketing. And it's like, but you're not good at that. And I think, we've been blessed here at 3L because we're able to employ what's called a decoupled architecture. So we take the core, the good stuff with those systems, and we cut the rest off and just use that to create, essentially a hybrid build, the merger of built versus bought from the front end, not the operational side. And that's giving our clients a better roadmap ahead. But without smart solutions in that kitchen, we can only do so much. And so Dewey gives me hope for what the future and hopefully near future for a lot of restaurant brands that deserve to continue seeing success, what they can and do. And it's very accessible. Despite who I'm talking to, you don't have to be a nuclear scientist to make it happen.
Thank you. I would say finger crossed that
Yeah.
you're doing something right, and hopefully you can keep growing.
I am nearly certain that you will. And I know I'll be cheering for you here on the sidelines, and hopefully we get to enjoy some of that pasta in person very soon. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Ciao.